Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. This program features in-depth conversations with the leading names in the subjects of UFOs, abductees, the paranormal, panel discussions, and the very best and brightest of the next generation of writers and researchers. Meanwhile Here on Earth, the show breaking new ground in alternative talk with your intrepid host, veteran investigative writer and researcher, Peter Robbins.
Hi there. It is I, your intrepid host, as the mellifluous tones of our great voiceover, Mr. Race Hobbs, has described me, here back on Meanwhile Here on Earth on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. If you subscribe to KGRA, you will have access to the thousands of shows in their archive on almost every aspect imaginable of UFOs and the paranormal. And if you use my first name, Peter, as your subscription code, whether it's for a month or a year, you will receive a full 30% discount. Take 10% of that and send it to me at the following address. Just kidding. I wasn't going to begin with a monologue today. Today's guest is very special to me, a dear friend who I have watched really knock out the jams in her areas of study and become one of the most respected women in her field. But something happened last week that captured my imagination, or more accurately, recaptured my imagination to such a degree that I thought I should share it with you. Some of you might have heard the news item in that if you're a regular viewer or listener to this show, you know we regularly deal with mysteries, unsolved, lost civilizations or lost other things, adventure, so to say, areas of study that are unresolved. And I don't remember how it happened, but as a young person, I became kind of enamored by Arctic and Antarctic exploration. It just was so filled with daring do and kind of, guys out there testing the mettle of their lives and surviving against all odds. In other words, they're crazy, but they're doing things, whether it's for God and country or personal glory or the advancement of science. And more than 100 years ago, there was an expedition to Antarctica. It was led by a man named Ernest Shackleton, an Englishman who had already twice distinguished himself as a remarkably adept polar explorer. And this expedition started out about as well as anyone can. It's a hand-picked crew of 27 individuals, almost all who had experience, all with the appropriate specialties, a very well-stocked ship, the Endurance. They left in late 1914 and very soon became trapped in the ice for a year, for more than a year. They couldn't get help to them. The potential for panic, for life-threatening injuries continued to grow. And at a certain point, the ice began to crush the ship slowly but unrelentingly. And when they realized that they were going to lose the ship, they did everything they could to get everything of value that they could move off of it, including their sled dogs, their sleds, food, everything you can think of. It's an epic, needless to say. And ultimately, they were on the ice floes for a prolonged period of time, doing their best to stay alive. Ultimately, when the ice started to break up, they took a deep breath, got into their lifeboats, and made their way to a completely uninhabited island, in terrible shape by this point. Built a shelter, and then Shackleton and two other men stocked one of the boats with everything they would need, and made one of the most extraordinary survival trips ever documented. More than 800 miles over open, frozen, stormy Antarctic seas. And they made their way to an uninhabited island called Elephant Island, where they built a shelter, set all the guys there, and then took off to find, well, and then they made the 800 plus mile run and got to New Georgia Island, climbed the 3,000 foot high glacier, made their way to a whaling station, got a ship to go back to recover the men, and nobody in Shackleton's crew was lost. It's absolutely one of the most breathtaking survival stories of all time. And why it particularly resonated with me was seeing the coincidence that in December, I had read what probably is the most definitive book on the subject. And it's all of the journals, all of the men's personal thoughts, everything that went on moment by moment, working from the log, and brilliantly illustrated with these photos, which in the book are sharp as tacks. They're incredibly high resolution. The expedition's photographer just kept taking pictures even after the ship broke up. So, to jump to the present, after the ice gave way and the ship went down, it went down not by the bow, it went straight down. And when it landed on the bottom of the ship. And that's where it sat for 107 years until last week, when a scientific expedition on its 30th or 32nd try, based only on the longitude and latitude notations by the ship's captain made before the ship went down 107 years ago, they found it. And because there are no microorganisms that can survive in water that cold that would normally eat wood, it's in pristine condition. Some of you are going, oh yeah, I saw that news item, or I saw that flash of video footage on my television or computer. Well, all I can tell you is it's one of the grandest stories of men working together to save their own lives, and one of the most singular visions of leadership with a capital L that I have ever heard of in modern times. Ernest Shackleton was a true hero and a remarkable individual. The definitive book on it, and I highly recommend it, is The Endurance, Shackleton's Legendary Antarctic Expedition, by a great, why don't I remove that picture so you can see the book? Carolyn Alexander is a great writer, a great researcher, and a brilliant investigator who brings the whole story together. And I will close only by saying that when the ship was found last week, after 107 years after it went down, it was found 100 years to the day of Ernest Shackleton's funeral. I'll leave you with that one. Moving into the present. An active leader in UFO and ancient artifacts investigations, my friend Chase Kloetzke employs a diverse set of skills and professional techniques known as the gold standards. Her work includes admissible inquiry, proper case management, and scientific conclusions. A former Department of Defense employee and schooled and certified as a former private investigator, Chase consistently demonstrates the knowledge, technical requirements, legal parameters, and commitment to evidence-based investigations using the latest technologies and methods of professional law enforcement, officers, officials in a modern scientific environment. Chase holds a tested certification in international forensics and evidence collections and is a member of CPES, the International Association of Property and Evidence. Kloetzke joined the Mutual UFO Network in 1996 and was the organization's star team manager and deputy director of investigations through 2011. In this capacity, she was responsible for the program design, protocols, and investigation procedures for a national rapid response unit. This position included supervision of the most experienced investigators and access to the most sensitive and complex cases reported to MUFON. Chase designed MUFON's Special Assignment Team, better known as SAT, the highest level of investigations within that large organization. She became the director of investigations in 2018, but since has resigned her positions in MUFON to pursue evidence and scientific investigations and to engage the lawmakers in Washington, D.C. with a focus on national security. In 2016, Chase became a registered and official lobbyist for the UFO field. This goal was realized through an understanding that to truly influence change and offer a knowledgeable community commentary on the realities of the UFO phenomena, we must include our nation's elected officials and the very people that are trusted as our lawmakers. The scientific community is willing to participate if we maintain the proper protocols and evidence integrity. By including both the lawmakers and scientific communities, we breach the security and ridicule stigma the UFO field has experienced for decades. Chase chose not to renew her lobbyist's ID in Washington because over the past few years, the doors have in fact been opening, with more and more elected officials and members of our scientific community becoming more engaged in the subject. Chase Kloetzke is also proud to be an associate producer of the powerful documentary Extraordinary, The Seedling, a particularly challenging documentary, I will say, and one we will get to discuss and see a trailer for in the second half of the show. She is also the author of what I think is one of the most singularly valuable in common sense and everyday work books on investigation protocols ever written. Admissible, which since this first edition has a different cover, but it's a field manual for investigating UFOs, paranormal activities, and strange creatures. And Chase Kloetzke, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth.
Peter, you are so generous and you are so articulate, and I just love you, and I'm so happy to be here with you.
Long time no see. It is, you and I are a perfect example of people that absolutely adore each other and then get caught up in the throes of time and realize how many years just went by. It does seem, though, that I haven't seen you in about 6 weeks. So I want to just begin by saying congratulations on all the stuff you've done over the last 6 years.
Thank you. I like to take corners on two wheels.
Oh, you do that very well. It sounds like somebody who only rides on two-wheeled vehicles. Chase, I want to start with you, and this is really a pleasure and a privilege for me, in a format that I return to on this show when guests warrant it, which is to zone in on people who have my admiration, my respect, and who are leaders in their areas of certain fields, to find out how they became the people they are. And so let's go back to the beginning here. Where were you born?
I was actually born in Wichita, Kansas, but before I was 1 year old, moved to Rhode Island. So I really consider myself just born and raised in Rhode Island.
And can you tell us a little bit about your folks?
Yeah, they were pretty strict. There were certain things that, we were just taught to be good girls and, proper little girls. And, that was kind of the central key of everything. And, be the good student, the rest of it. It's on and on. But, and of course, Mormon, we're LDS. So, that speaks volumes about the rest of it, right? For most people.
So I'm guessing, how many siblings were there all together?
It was 5 of us, and my parents divorced when I was 16, and so I didn't see any of my other siblings for another 4 years.
Oh my gosh. We'll come back to that. When you were in elementary school, we all come to reading at different rates. My dyslexia kept me from mastering it until I was about 8 years old. We all know people that were, reading books at 4. About when did you start to own that ability and start to choose your own reading, if you were allowed to choose your own reading?
We weren't really. And that was something that it came about 16 years old, which was really a catalyst time for me being introduced to anything UFO at all.
So you were basically encouraged to read scripture and religious or more traditional readings, and not whatever you wanted until that point?
Oh, correct. Yes.
Am I correct in remembering that in LDS, which some people know as Mormon or Latter-day Saints, that unlike so many organized religions, it's already understood in LDS that we are not alone in the universe and that there is life on other planets out there?
Yes, absolutely. That is part of our doctrine. And truthfully, Joseph Smith actually named other planets, and the planet Kolob is, allegedly the planet closest to where God lives. But I often think of just his story alone, where he talks about being in the woods and a pillar of light comes down, and
in
these
Elmira, New York, just
beings,
up the road from here.
very beautiful. Yes, exactly. And, later on in life, I realized that's one of the best UFO stories I've ever heard. What?
Horrifying everybody else in the LD. No.
Oh, yes, yes. It's not my first time, by the way.
Well, again, as far as I'm concerned, you're going to get cut a lot of slack, and you will get your own planet when you go on to what happens next. And that is also a belief of LDS, that you have your own planet after you die with your family and all that.
No, not really. It's more that there's 3 types of heaven. So, we don't believe that just because, and Mormons don't believe only Mormons are going to be there, which I love that. Like, anybody that goes to Jesus Christ, they believe will be up there. So, but there's just little differences. And, we believe in many gods, but we only have one. Humans on this earth only belong to one God, one Savior, one Holy Spirit. But we believe there are others that run other planets and run other worlds. And, so it's a little out there. But the more, if you understand and really read up on, what we're learning in the UFO field, even Eric Von Daniken said, you know what, guys, Mormons got it right. I'm not a good one, though, so I'm not pushing Mormonism. I'm telling you. I'm into what they call a Jack Mormon right now, so I'm...
Very much appreciated. When you were growing up, did you, within the confines of, this fairly strict childhood, did you have yourself any UFO or what we'd call UFO sightings or paranormal experiences?
No, not that I remember. I was actually homesick with strep throat, and I was in high school. I believe it's like I was almost 17, and bored to death. Didn't have a TV, didn't have any of that stuff. So my stepmother brings in a book called Chariots of the Gods. And I was not interested in another religious book, so I did not pick it up. And then out of boredom, I picked it up, and all of a sudden I open it. Peter, I was like, you can ask questions like this? Who does this? Oh my gosh. And I got halfway through the book and realized I was just given permission to go ahead and speak my mind, ask my questions. And, if they don't like it, I don't know what to say except, to get out there and find out what else is out there. Eric Von Daniken gave me the confidence and the permission to be like, oh, I can't say, hey, Moses out there for 40 years, there's a chase in every crowd. About after 3, I would have been like, hey, Mo, can I see that map for a minute? Right? So to kind of push that line every once in a while, it's like, it was just fun. It was awesome to be that free.
How wonderful. And thank you, stepmother.
Right? What's funny is I spoke at the Ozarks, that very, very wonderful conference that they have every year. And Eric Von Daniken was speaking there as well. And my stepmother, it was the first time she ever saw me speak or ever came out and saw anything I did at all.
Oh, how cool.
And it was so funny because, it was really a good moment.
And she got to meet Eric Von Daniken as well.
Yes, but her favorite was Richard Dolan.
Yes, who we should note, Richard Dolan, some of you may have heard of him. You couldn't have gotten somebody, better or better known as a co-author. Oh, well, next book.
Yeah, he actually organized the content. So he never contributed a word except in the foreword. So all of that's mine. But he worked so hard on it because I'm not an author. I could talk about how to investigate and some of the mistakes I've made in the past and, things I've learned along the way that really have turned out to be very important to, pass on. And, we have this new generation. I call them the new kids on the block. Christina Gomez, we have, UFO Jane, Danny Silva. There's like these and they're so smart, but there's a little experience that I can give them that you don't really think of sometimes.
Yes, and we will definitely go into more detail about this new wave or this next generation of contributors to the field. By the time you're in high school, as we all do, you're going to have to do something when you become one of these creatures we call grown-ups. Did you have a bead draw on what that might be for Chase Kloetzke? Well, you weren't Kloetzke then.
I was a cheerleader, so that probably says most because, back in the 1978, 79, it's like, I was a cheerleader. So, I didn't have to do much, but just be a cheerleader.
All I can say
so I didn't think much about it until after.
Why is that so easy to visualize? Oh, yeah, because you still are. Okay.
So you see on the bottom of my email, it says, save the cheerleader, save the world. Woo, boo, boo, boo.
Right, exactly. I remember that's always been there. And my sister, who's my late sister, Helen, whose life path took her on a non-standard direction, as a punk pioneer and a great singer-songwriter and in-your-face counterculture character, she was a cheerleader too. And you never know about cheerleaders.
Oh, I loved her. Exactly. I love when you post pictures of her because, especially in the day, she was a trailblazer. You look at her clothes, her hair, she was exactly who she was. And I just admire her so much.
I think you two would have gotten along like a house on fire, as they say. So your
Yes, I'm
cheerleading
sure.
days are now moving into the past. Have you gone into the world of higher education or thought, no, that's not for me. I'm going to do something else with my life?
I actually wanted to go into higher education, but I ended up getting married and having a baby right away. So, you know, yeah, everything was about that for many, many years. So I really didn't get to do my thing that I wanted until I went to PI school. I also went to EMT school and got my license and found out I'm too small that for anyone to hire me to carry a stretcher on the other side, which they didn't tell me when I paid for the school, by the way. So, it was just, and it was really 1994 when I was in. I was in. Joined MUFON, it's all over. In fact, it was when I got my first computer. And the first thing I typed in was UFOs, and I was so shocked at how much was there. And that's how I learned about MUFON. There's all these like little groups and everything. And, I was just like in love.
When you married Pete, who recently retired from a distinguished career in the Navy, as I understand, doing a job that we can't talk about because it's got that pesky
Right.
classification. If you tell us, you have to kill us kind of thing. And so, we'll leave that alone.
Right.
And I adore Pete, as you
Yeah.
know, and do enjoy very much, as I was saying
And
before we went on the air,
you as well.
thinking about having him as a guest
Yeah.
and just how much dead air can we fill with trying to rephrase a question of, but so anyway, send him my very best wishes. But when you're now a young Navy wife, that is a whole reality that many women know. I guess, now that there are, so many women serving in the Navy, there are, male counterparts now who may not be serving. But when did your imagination, your mind, your thoughts really begin? I mean, I know that, you discovered MUFON, but was there something, some book, some experience, some story, something you saw or read that really set you on this course of interest in this specific phenomena?
Everything I could get my hands on. Whitley Strieber, John Mack, Jacques Vallée. I was at the library. Anytime something came in, she knew not to even put it up, just put it on hold for me. Give me a call. I'll be there in 10 minutes. Everything. Every TV show. I mean, as silly as it is, X-Files, anything to do with this topic I was in. And really, really kind of obsessed. So
that's not a bad obsession. Was it accompanied by a similar interest in other paranormal areas of study, strange creatures, mysteries and histories, all of the wonderful basket of goodies we get when we start to look into that world of the paranormal? Were there things that made these interests? Let us have it.
Yeah. In fact, I had a really strange paranormal kind of encounter. And, I'm in my bathroom, got out of the shower, I'm drying my hair. And, this is like, I'm bent over because long hair you do upside down. And all of a sudden I just, flip my hair back like that. And there was a man standing in back of me, clear as day. I could pick him out in a lineup. I mean, he was there. And I caught his eye. He looked at me and we were both so stunned. And then I just dropped to the ground because I knew I was going to get hurt. And I dropped my blow dryer and I thought, oh my God, that's the only weapon I have. So I grabbed that. I pulled the cord out so hard. It took some of the electrical socket out. And I just kind of sat there waiting to get hurt. And all of a sudden nothing happened. So I kind of looked around and I'm like, oh God, he's in my bedroom. So I walk into my bedroom. Then it starts hitting me. Wait a minute. My doors are locked. My dogs would have barked their, little voice box out if anybody had come into this house. And I just kind of sat on my bed and thought, I bet there's somewhere a man that says, I saw the craziest thing in the world. This girl just showed up with all this black hair flying, and I'm scared to death. So I kind of look at it more like a glitch, or, it was just really weird. The funny thing is I had like a bunch of kids over, or my son did, and they're in the back, like, in a little fire, and they're all having a good time. And one of the moms came to pick her son up, and she's just white as a ghost, and she's just walking as fast as she can to the back. And I'm like, Jen, are you okay? Like, you all right? What's going on? She's like, I just saw a man in your garage, and I swear to God, he disappeared. And I'm like, what? And she goes, oh yeah, described exactly the same guy I saw. I never told her my side because, but I was just stunned, absolutely stunned.
Wow.
So, and I was on a ghost hunting team, and that was in Tennessee, and it was called Ghost, being Ghost Hunters of Southwest Tennessee. So we did a lot of paranormal investigations, and I just loved it. Also did Bigfoots. I was, if you don't know what it is, Peter, I'll go look. Right. I've been in the swamps in Louisiana looking out for the Honey Island swamp monster. I've been in the, the belly of mines in Kentucky looking for a reptilian. And, it's just what I do. I'm absolutely fascinated by things that are not supposed to exist.
You also have quite a track record of doing just what you described outside of this country. What are some of the other countries that you have worked in to chase down some of these assorted mysteries?
Australia, Peru, Bolivia, a lot of South America work, especially because I'm also on an expedition team that's run by Timothy Alberino, and this is called Inca Quest. And they have like the highest tech equipment, and we're just looking for remnants of the elongated skulls. And I've been involved in that for many, many years. Started out with L.A. Marzulli, still am very close to L.A. Timothy's got like a different take, and he's running with that. But I was down there. One of the first experiences I had, oh my gosh, in fact, it's right behind me. This Brian Forrester had contacted LA and reported that he had this like little skull that you could tell by the wrapping that it was elongated skull, and it's a baby. It's 2 months old. So this isn't cranial deformation or headboarding. So, we go down there. I'm all excited. I get all my forensic stuff out, and I get to unwrap a baby mummy that's almost, I think it lacks a couple of years of being 2,000 years old. And we open it up, and here's this little red hair, not at all indigenous to Peru at all, and a lot of deformity. So, we were so excited. And then, Peter, I saw something that every mom would have seen right away. And the guys are celebrating. We have this infant, 2 months, red hair, everything we were looking for. And then, bam, I had to pop their bubble. I'm like, LA. I'm like, I don't think it's 2 months old. He goes, why would you say that? I'm like, he has a full set of teeth. So you want me to get it and kind of hold it up a bit?
Yes, please.
This is a replica. It's a museum quality replica. And
Yes.
This is exactly what we uncovered. Like the red hair, his little teeth.
Wow.
Yeah. You know what was which I found really sweet, Peter, was as we unwrapped it, the closer we got to the head, the more of the textile and everything was getting clearer. It was more, it wasn't rotted as much. So there was a lot of design. One of the wrappings he had little baby turtles on it. Even back then, like we would put today, our babies and cute little. I thought that was so awesome.
That's poignant.
Yeah.
Talk about that feeling of
so we have
out.
many, many mysteries.
Yeah. You've just described one specific thing, though, where occasionally in life, if we're fortunate, whatever discipline we're working in, we have an opportunity to reach out and make contact with a physical moment in the past. And in this case, informed by something so universal as thinking about a baby's sensibility. You don't have to be a modern human being to do that. And to think, rather than just a piece
Right.
of cloth, of course, that piece of cloth that you are unwrapping, completely handmade, hand dyed, everything about it, authentic, knowing that probably nobody had touched that cloth since it was wrapped the
Mhm.
other way. And the little turtles,
Almost 2,000 years ago.
yes, yes. And that one does not
It's not the only
do
skull
that.
I've done.
That
Yeah, I've done
the,
hundreds, Peter, like held hundreds. We even did a full mummy, the DNA off a full mummy that, we were in the back room of the museum, and, Peru's difficult. You jump through so many hoops just to even talk to the curator or the, ministry, the minister of the museo. So it's just craziness. And it wasn't without some danger too. We were in Changos, which is a necropolis, and we're digging up our own elongated skulls, and all of a sudden we're coming back, there's nothing around us for miles and miles and miles. He stops and he's like, I want $200 American from every one of you, or get out. That was one. We're in Bolivia, and we just get out of passport and border checkpoints, and it was we're just walking in a line, and there's 9 on our team, but for some reason these guys come up and they grab me, LA, and Aaron Judkins, and they start taking us to this one little building. Well, it's dilapidated. There's like 2 little folding chairs in there. One is like broken. They tell the guys to sit down, and they bring me in a back room and shut the door. And they tell me to take everything out of my purse. Then I realize, why did we follow these guys in? This is obviously a shakedown. So anyway, I emptied everything out of my purse or whatever, and I saw an ID, and he picked it up, and it was my dependent's ID, Navy dependent. And
ooh,
we have to carry that in case we need to go to the consulate, right? Or we have to go to the, our building up there, but
yes.
the embassy. And all of a sudden he looks and he goes, is this you? And I'm like, now I'm thinking right there, I either have become a high target or a high price target, right? Or it's my get out of jail free card. Well, about that time, he's like, lift your shirt, all this. I'm just like, I just said, nope, not going to do it. About that time, I hear all this commotion outside, and the door busts open. And it's LA and Aaron. They're like, you okay, Chase? You're not keeping her in here. You're not going to do it. I was so happy I was not with a team that had compliant little sheep, that they were like, oh, no, this is not going to happen. Not on our watch. We're going to do what we can. And, and I've got about 10 other stories like that. I won't bore everybody with them. But, these things that we do, especially overseas, can be really dangerous. With Timothy, one more quick story. Timothy Alberino, we're up there, and we're start on this mountain road, and we're going up to this village that knows where a giant is, big bones, and they're going to show us. We're on this road. There are points, Peter, that we had to stop and chisel part of that dirt mountain because our trucks were too big, and we were like scraping. And I'm looking out the window telling him, yeah, you've got 2 inches left before we fall 1.5 miles. You got 2 inches on that thing. But then we end up staying with this tribe, and, they're head shrinkers. And of course, then there's the Amazon where everything wants to eat you. Bugs, plants, animals, everything wants to eat you. So, I just love it all. I just love it.
And you really have such an amazing partner. For, some husbands or wives would have problems and issues with their partner, the most special person in their life,
with the danger.
Being in an area where everything wants to eat you, with people that, don't think a great deal of human life.
Yes.
Chasing monsters.
Right.
So
Yeah, and even the last time I went down there with Inca Quest, he came with us, so that was so great. But no, he doesn't like it at all, and there's times I don't tell him for a while because I want to go back. So, eventually it does come out, but I don't tell him as soon as I get home or anything because you know him, But I have to give credit because everything I do, he funds. Every piece of equipment, he has never said no. He's a naval officer. He retired as a submarine commander. This guy literally and has never told me to shut up. This is something where he was always so proud of what I did, whether, his people liked it or not. On his desk, he's got my book. He's got my children's book. He's got a picture of me, like all my little, investigative stuff. And, he's always been the biggest supporter. And at any time, I could have killed his career. Yeah, they could have said, look, you're coming up in the world and your wife's friggin' nuts, chasing aliens. Just knock it off. And he never, ever even.
If you wanted to push the points like, well, what are you doing under the North Pole with a fully armed complement of such and such kind of missiles coasting along in a nuclear submarine with orders that if I knew them, I would have to be terminated. So, we kind of balance each other out in a nice sort of way.
We do, because it's an odd conversation that we would have. And because, he would come home. I'm like, how was work? He's like, oh, it was great. I had a couple meetings. I ran into an old shipmate. Traffic was horrible coming home. How was your day? It was awesome. They had a couple interviews, got a new case assigned to me. No details. We don't tell each other, For him, That's it was, plausible deniability that his wife was crazy chasing UFOs. And for him, it was just secret. But we work. I mean, here we are over 33 years later.
Yeah, that's wonderful. I'm going to keep coming back to this through the show, but right now, can you share with our audience some aspect of a case that you investigated? And it can be, take your choice. It could be, going after Bigfoot, or a particularly compelling UFO incident, or some strange animal that's not supposed to exist. And that moment, if you will, or that process where you are staring at evidence that is gilt-edged, evidence that you could bring into a court of law of something that the great majority of people would consider impossible, unreal, if they weren't laughing so hard because they know that such a thing can't be true, except that it is. Give us an example of what constitutes first-rate evidence in the face of something that seems impossible to an outsider.
I think for the most part, we're there after the fact. So we're looking for trace evidence in most cases, physical evidence in very rare cases. But sometimes it's just, just the crew you're with. I got a call from a lady, and she's a nurse, and her husband's a police officer. And he had an incident that he can't sleep. He's terrified. Like and she's like, this is not him. So my friend told me about you and can you help me? And so I talked to him, and what happened was he and his partner are on duty. They get called for trespassers, teenagers, in this little batch of woods. And there's like these old slave quarters there that the kids go and party all the time. So they're walking out there, and, he says, all of a sudden I see this big white thing. And he said he's tall, he's thin, he's like 7 foot tall, maybe 8 foot. He said his head's shaped like a balloon, really big on top and little. And he says, and it kind of stepped in back of a tree for a little minute. And he says, we just did what we're trained to do. So they pulled their guns and told it to freeze. Well, it comes out of kind of like the tree and almost into and they shot it. It absolutely terrified them. And the minute they shot the gun, it disappeared. It was gone. Well, now they have to go back to the police station and say what happened because they're service weapons and they're on duty. So you can imagine the teasing that they got. And he was just horrified because he knew what he saw. his partner took it better. Like he was just like, yeah, whatever, and kind of rolled with it. But this other witness, absolutely not. He was. So I told him that I could come up there. Well, this is in North Carolina, and you and I share a really good friend, Chris Bledsoe. And Chris, years. I mean, I think it's like 5 years. I'd go up all the time. Stuff was always going on. We would document.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's a real deal. But so because Chris went through such a hard time, when he first came, it was a TV show, and, MUFON raped him. I mean, they shredded that man. I mean, not the MUFON of today, but, back in the day, and how they treated him was just horrific. And, so he knows what it's like to be a survivor, to come back, fix his family, understand the phenomena, and just move on. I mean, he's such a success story. It's a survival story. That's how I see Chris. So I called him up and I said, look, I've got this lady or this case coming up. And he goes, well, wait, let me tell you something first. I'm so excited. He said, last night I saw this huge blue diamond. He said, just come all the way down to the ground. And I'm like, oh, on your property? He's like, no, this is like way off. It was miles off, but it was just so beautiful. And, so he's like, all right, so what do you got? So I tell him the story, and I tell him the town. I said, well, how far are you from this town? And he says, Chase. It's the town right next to mine, and that's exactly where that blue diamond landed. So this is the stuff with Chris all the time. No one's surprised. So anyway, I asked him if he would help this police officer. He said, absolutely. Chris is like that. Yeah. So I go up there and I assemble a team. I think there was 10 of us, and including the wife and the husband. And I really don't like to do that because I like to do my own thing. So I did most of mine in the daytime, because as we're driving up, one of the things I do is, what's the surroundings? What's going on? And I see these high, like, electricity lines, these, one of those big, stations. Yeah. So I want to go find out how far the EMF comes out and if it had anything to do with their sighting or anything like this. So I go out there in the woods. The woods are tiny. They're just those little batch of woods that is enough to eat the EMF from the neighborhoods. They all have those little woods. So we walk through there, and it's, just easy. Go down this little ditch, come out. There's the opening, get my readings, coming back, did a few other things out there. And just collecting as much data as I can, reasonable, recordable data. So anyway, that night, I'm like, all right, well, let's go out there and you show me exactly what you saw, where this is going on. It's starting to get like it's dusk, forgetting that the woods gets a little darker, but we were ready for it, so we're just walking around. All of a sudden I realize, where the hell is this field? Like, we've been walking for like 20 minutes. It's like a 6-minute walk at that, maybe. And so I'm thinking, we're just walking in circles. We come down that little ditch. I'm like, here we go. We come out, nothing. We're walking and walking and walking. We come up to that ditch again, and we come out, and sure enough, there's the opening right there. So we finish the investigation. We come back. Chris and I saw something in the back with the eyes and the glowing eyes. And there was, you could make out something. And we just kind of said it amongst ourselves, because we were the only two that, had a history of this instead of freaking people out again. But anyway, it was like 3 days later. We closed down. I take my stuff. I'm getting all my... And one of the guys that runs evidence for us called me. He's like, oh, I'm like, what? He goes, Chase, you're not going to like this. I'm like, stop it. Like, what? And he's like, all 3 of our helmet cams are missing 8 minutes. And I'm just like losing blood. I'm like, so I called Chris. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm like shaking. Like, I'm shaking. And I said, Chris, you're not going to believe it, but evidence guy just called, and he said, he goes, we're missing time. We're missing about 8 minutes or about 10 minutes, aren't we? I'm like, how did you know? He's like, oh, I knew. He says, I wasn't going to say nothing to you because we all know that you don't like to be part of anything. I'm the one that, you get into a paranormal situation and I hear get out and growling. I'm leaving. I'm not stupid. I'm curious. Is there a difference? So I don't like to be part of the story or anything, but that's something that you kind of think about later. It's like, that's part of it. And when you do as many investigations as I do, stuff is going to happen, and it has.
And sometimes we do become part of the story. It's not a matter of whether we like it or not. It's just the way it worked out. In the world of UFO studies, your work in particular, as you've given us an idea, has taken you all over this country and to some remote corners of countries that many of us will never get to. One of the great perks of doing what we do, and in an active sense, nobody does it more than you, is some of the places that you get to go that no way you would have ended up had it not been for this obsession, preoccupation, career choice, and some of the people that you get to meet and interface with, some of whom are unforgettable. Off the top of your head, not for investigation, but just because you were there on an investigation and a certain location has lingered, and a place that you would love to go back to, just to maybe, with your husband or family or on your own, to explore in a more relaxed way because it was so unlike any other place or so beautiful or so special in some way. What's a place or two that you visited that would be in that category for you?
It would definitely be Pisco in Peru. In Peru. And Pisco is just this amazing place that, I remember standing with the mayor of Pisco, and we're standing on top of a step pyramid that's still half buried underneath. And he's telling me about a UFO story that he's like, there's a dry lake bed over there. And he says, there used to be a nice lake there. And this UFO comes down, it takes all our water. And our farmers need them for their crops and animals. And, because you look around and there are these beautiful, lush places surrounding this, like, little desert sandy place. Yeah. And so I told him, well, do you want me to go take samples and he's like, for what? He goes, no, I need you to tell them we want our water back. So he didn't understand as an investigator what I really did, because his officers being in, this little village, they handle things, not so much in arrest and handcuffs. You go to the tribal chiefs and, so I just thought it was so great when I just realized that's how much they accept it. They don't need proof. They know it's real. You're not going to tell them anything. Like, they don't need our science. And I just love that. And I would love to go back and visit that step pyramid again. Yeah. And just sit down and talk to him and go out for dinner or something. Have a few Pisco sours.
It's that opportunity to be in the presence of the past in a living, breathing way. There is nothing like it. Time travel is real in that sense. I unlike some of our colleagues, have a fairly dim view that we are on the edge of, or that we are capable of, or that time travel is real in the sense we would all love it to be, although who knows about the distant future. But in that sense, it's as real as things get. And how can I say? You occupy space that somebody else was standing in 1,000 years before, thinking their thoughts, having their dreams, and yet there you are. They are exotic and in the past and represent mystery, when in their moment they were as real and three-dimensional and, as funny and poignant or, wistful as we are. It's such a special part of this work. We are actually coming into the end of our first hour, as it happens to be. And I wanted to just find out, when we get into the second hour, one of the things that I'm really curious about is how the film that you worked on, The Extraordinary, The Seedling, came to be. I think it's probably, I've not seen the film, but knowing some of the people that appear in the film and what the subject is, which is one that has troubled me, obsessed me, fascinated me, going back more than 40 years. I think it took great courage to make this film, and, hats off to everybody involved. This is, by the way,
Thank you.
you can, absolutely. What you've done, I think, is a really important public service, and I think it's going to be a bumpy ride for some people that see it and think, oh, well, I love UFO documentaries, and, I'm a big fan of Von Daniken and James Fox and everybody in between, but this is not that. That said, you can visit Chase Kloetzke's website. It is chasekloetzke.com, and that is spelled Chase, Kloetzke, Kloetzke. This is Peter Robbins and Chase Kloetzke on Meanwhile Here on Earth, about to dive into a 3-minute break. Stay with us.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
And welcome back to Meanwhile Here on Earth with me, Peter Robbins, and my very special guest for tonight, Ms. Chase Kloetzke. Welcome back, Ms. Kloetzke. Anything paranormal happened during the break that we should be aware of?
No, but my cat is attacking my leg.
Very good. I'm glad. Situation normal. All good. And this is your latest edition, cat? The cat that
Yes.
has adopted you guys?
We
Yes.
named her Alley Cat.
And she may make a special appearance later, as she did before the show. Right now, she's just working on your leg.
Yes, absolutely.
For a cat owner, not a paranormal experience, everyday stuff. In the beginning of the show, you were talking about a group of individuals who quite a number of you and I have a great deal of affection, admiration, fondness for, who represent kind of the new guard in the work. There was a time, not all that long ago, let's say a dozen years ago or so, where I was really wondering where that next generation of researchers and investigators was going to come from, because I didn't really see that happening. And then I did start to see it happening. And now there is a slew of them, and they are sharp, educated, together, knowledgeable, great communication skills. Among them are Christina, who you mentioned earlier, Micah Hanks, Ryan Sprague, Adam Sane down in Nashville. I mean, the list goes on.
Yeah, the list goes on.
They, how can I say, they are working with an enthusiasm and an interconnectedness that I find really quite wonderful. There's camaraderie that displaces competition on a certain level. For me, it's like love. Oh, I can't love you. I have too many people in my life that I love. When one of them dies, I will let you know. And then perhaps, we can get
Right.
together. There's plenty of room in this field of UFO and paranormal studies for people to be in an ongoing dialogue and to inspire each other, rather than, oh, damn, they got that guest and I've only got this guest. I'm miserable tonight because they're more famous than I am for this 24-hour period. Some people think like that. I think also what we're seeing
They have
is something.
such class too.
Well, also, you talk about the 90s when you started roaring into this in no uncertain terms. I think back to the late 70s when I stumbled into it, having no idea there was such a thing as the world of UFO studies. I knew that
Right.
my sister and I were sane as far as I was concerned, even though we had this shocking sighting and her experience. But I figured everybody else in the field was insane because they're grown-ups and they take flying saucers seriously. So how together can they be? Except, of course, I was one of them. And there was no internet. I read magazines. I began to correspond with people in this ancient form called letters. You use this pulp from trees and you colored ink on it and you put a stamp. The government issues them, and it takes a while. It's not as quick as email. And then the world of starting to go to conferences and networking with people. Now, number one, there's this database which makes me wonder about back engineering and alien intelligence called the internet, which I don't see how we put that together myself. Although, as Bud Hopkins used to say, at our best, what we can conceive, we can achieve. We are capable of fulfilling our dreams. But wait a minute. I don't know about you, but every once in a while, if I'm a little bit bored or just want to push the envelope a bit, it's like, okay, Beethoven's second sister, what was her name? How did you know that? It's that idea of 1,000 monkeys typing at 1,000 typewriters for 1,000 years, and sooner or later one of them produces the script for Hamlet. Maybe, maybe not. But how the hell, in a relatively short period, a few years that we're aware of, did a zillion programmers figure out pretty much every answerable question and get it out there. I'm off on a tangent, but just that there is a database now where we were making our own. I have loose leaf notebooks filled with stuff that I started to put together in the 70s. And I remember when I got my very first computer, it was given to me by a friend who was very computer literate. This is probably in the later 80s. It was a Brother. That was the brand name. It was an LED half-screen readout, and this plastic kind of casing. I thought I was on the bridge of the Star Trek Enterprise. And I'd push the wrong button and lose everything and panic and call him, and he would walk me through // do this. And now, everybody is so computer literate and so knowledgeable on their subjects. Plus, they pick up the ability now in this golden age of broadcasting, where it's not only, this is actually an old-fashioned real radio show that you and I are on. This is going out live around the world. I guess by definition, the moment the show is over and it's archived, then it becomes a podcast as people download it. But that whole world of podcasters and the intelligence, it really is a golden age. And so many sharp people, one can only wonder where we will be in terms of information providers just a few short years down the road.
Yeah. Grant Cameron calls them the young guns. I call them the new kids on the block. And you're right, the camaraderie, there's a tight group. But you know what it reminds me of? Richard Dolan, Grant Cameron, Peter Robbins, Linda Moulton Howe, Chase Kloetzke, Nick Pope, like we're all this, we still are, but we were all doing conferences together. That was like all this stuff was rolling. I could name a few more because there's a nice group of us. So, but it's why we're so fond of each other. It takes a couple years. We don't talk to each other. 5 minutes into conversation, we're right back where we left off. And that's love. And that's knowing each other. And that's, just that high respect we have for each other. I don't agree with like every single thing Linda says, but she has got my highest respect because no female in this field, and I've had my share in my face, I've been shredded by the good old boys, but no one had it worse than Linda. And she survived. And she made some rules out here. And, she was doing it when it wasn't cool. So, yeah.
Well, I couldn't agree with you
like
more.
our group. I mean, I don't think we're being replaced or fired because these kids, they know I'll give them anything. And they'll contact me, several times and just like, what do you think of this? Or I haven't been in here long enough. Do you know anything about this video? I'm like, oh yeah, that was debunked like in 2001. So they're just really cute and they include us, but they're also giving us creds, and I just love them for that, and I just really appreciate that they do that.
Again, I couldn't agree with you more. Agree, disagree at certain points, of course. It's the nature of the beast. Also, because we work in an unregulated field. In a sense, you're closer to a world of regulations because you adhere to them. They're inadmissible. Mm-hmm. Well, no, that's kind of poorly stated. They're inadmissible, not inadmissible.
Yes.
Plus, in terms of MUFON, which is the largest UFO research organization in the world, it's had different incarnations, up, down, popular, not so popular, not the point. It still is only several thousand people. And if you train to be a MUFON investigator, which, as you know, is a good, solid training and informs to a degree, some of your research
really
and protocols. Yeah.
It's perfect for somebody new that wants to learn how to investigate. And I know, like Arizona, before they give you that title, you have to read my book. So it's kind of that add-on. It's that extra. that's really not in a MUFON investigator manual, because there's personal stories about don't do this. An example of that would be, you see all these people that like to have their UFO hunter license plates and UFO team and, MUFON stickers on their car. Don't do that. Don't do that. That witnesses that you're going to go see may not want their neighbors knowing they call a UFO person, right? So, you have to be very professional and discreet. So that's just one of the little tidbits. I've got like 100 of them in there about, this doesn't work very well, guys. So, don't do that.
Well, you should be aware that the director of Phoenix MUFON, our mutual friend, a remarkable woman in her own right, Stacy Wright, and I were back and forth. Yeah, me too. She is the real deal. And, there are wonderful leadership all over the country, at the regional and the state level in MUFON, many folks who have become friends and close colleagues over the years. Stacy's kind of in a class by herself, but we were back and forth just this morning. And not to blow smoke, but people should be aware of this. Stacy wrote to me and said, I just wanted to chime in on the Chase Kloetzke interview you are about to do. We love Chase and all that she has taught the many field investigators of MUFON. Her book, Admissible, is considered required reading by all the Arizona MUFON FIs. They must all have a copy, ! And that it is that good. I just wanted to add that. Thanks. So that is unsolicited, but the respect that you and your work have are pretty extraordinary. At the same time, we work in a very divisive. Well, we work in a very divisive field in another sense. There are, again, this is unregulated. If you are a MUFON investigator, so certified, and you are caught violating, your code, you're faking evidence, you're lying, you're doing something that you shouldn't be doing, MUFON can uncertify you or kick you out of the organization. Not that that's going to destroy your life, but they can't do anything else. We don't have, as I've made a point of saying with a number of guests over the time, we don't have an American Medical Association or a bar association on our case to act ethically. We also have the kind of existential problem that a certain level of proof is still almost unattainable. I can't show you a spark plug from a highly advanced disc-shaped craft. I don't have the thumb of a gray alien that we can do DNA and establish, with no uncertain terms. We can't go on a tour of an underground base manned by or womaned by or neutered by other intelligences. And somebody can say, this is what is true, prove me wrong. For me, one of the great challenges comes from, take me, for example. I drive people crazy on occasion by parsing everything. This is what I absolutely know and could prove in a court of law. This is what I know and I'm sure, but can't prove with that level of evidence. This is what I suspect may be the case. This is what I fear may be the case. This is what I think is possible, as opposed to this is. I guess I could say, in the this is reality, I am convinced beyond any reasonable doubt that we are not alone in the universe of advanced intelligences. But beyond that, I'm not sure. However, at the center of the UFO mystery, enigma, is another mystery, an enigma. And it brought me very much into this work almost overnight, more than 40 years ago, when my career trolley jumped the tracks and I went from being a dedicated artist in New York City to, I guess the word ufologist really hadn't come into being yet, but somebody obsessed with the subject, trying to figure out what was going on. And it has to do with part of the being taken experience. This was not really researched per se much until Well, Betty and Barney Hill kind of kicked it off, but still it remained a dormant field until the later 70s, when Bud Hopkins pioneered the scientific investigation, published Missing Time in 1981, and things began to take a turn. But as David Jacobs once said to me...
Yeah, that's Deb Cobble, too.
Yeah. Relative to the intelligences and what they were up to, as opposed to the craft or the apparitions that some of us interpret as craft, that, you know, in the Vallée or the Keel sense, may be more ethereal and amorphous and, you know, have nothing to do with hard metal advanced technology. That taking ourselves back to the 70s, and when the field was dominated, I mean, still is to a great degree, but totally dominated by middle-aged white guys, which I would qualify for if I was past middle age, if I wasn't past, that a major concern was being taken seriously. And so it made more sense overall in the field to focus on lights in the night sky, radar returns, if you were particularly daring, trace cases, physiological changes to soil, and not be thinking about who's on board. And as David said, in a very dry sense of humor, we were focused on the cars and not the drivers. And then we go to the area of what are those drivers doing? The idea of being taken, when it first started to come into popular culture, I thought, you know, my first impression when Helen told me her story was, this has got to be like being hit by lightning. If it's happened to you, it's so rare that it's like, you know, it's only going to happen once. We know, of course, now it is just the opposite. They, for lack of a more descriptive term, follow bloodlines. And what this comes to is that incredibly fascinating, disturbing, shocking, all too real, especially to the people it's happening to, and maybe especially to a certain group who are women who it's happening to, having to do with missing pregnancies, hybrid beings, children that are part them, part us, and what this is all leading to. I'm going on here a bit, but on one more minute before turning it over to you, which is, when I first started in this field, most of the people that were being interviewed and documented as abductees and experiencers, roughly give or take 2/3 of them, were not having a good time. This was anxiety-provoking, to put it mildly, sometimes terrifying, totally disenfranchising, the idea of living a secret life, because you can't tell people, because they'll think you're crazy or they'll ridicule you. And as Bud once pointed out, well, a number of times, he said it's like, in the most extreme sense, dealing with somebody who has been raped and who, because they come forward to say they've been raped, gets raped again by the public, actually or allegorically, for making us all feel creepy, for telling us obviously stuff that can't be true, because it can't be, because I don't want it to be. It's just too icky, too weird, too strange. All of that understood. At a certain point in your work, in your evolution as a researcher, as a scholar, as an activist, you started to come into more and more contact, and I'm guessing through the world of women who had had these things happen to them, and maybe other female colleagues. You know, men are obviously involved in the field, but no matter what, no matter how empathetic, no matter how open-minded, hey, I see a human being there. Highly classified, just left the room. Okay, good. That you got into the heart of this, and this is not an easy place to be. Again, some of the extraordinarily decent and thoughtful women who had the courage to share their stories with you in this documentary flash me back to the 1980s when people like Deb Cabell first came forward and talked about her experiences that were documented in Intruders, a very important book on the subject.
Mm-hmm.
And then others came forward. Linda Corteil, the Brooklyn Bridge case, high visibility, and then kind of a bunch of mid-level people, and now more and more. When we watch that documentary, if you're involved in the work to some deeper degree, you will recognize some of these people. You have heard them speak, you've read their books. Other ones, it's like, you go, girl, good for you, and God bless you. How do you handle this? I've overtalked this. Let me just put it back in your corner here, leading into taking a little time out for us and our audience to watch the trailer to this documentary. How did you get into the documentary? And tell us some thoughts about the process of doing it.
It started out, Jack Roth, one of the directors and showrunners, and I were going to partner and write a book together about the missing fetus syndrome that we consistently hear about. And I kind of felt like this was a topic that wasn't getting a lot of attention. And it's got to be one of the most brutal things that can happen to a female, to find out you're pregnant, have a sonogram, here's that little baby. Next day, something's happened. I'm not pregnant anymore. I go back and there's not a single sign I was pregnant. And the doctor says, well, your body eats them sometimes. What? Yeah. So and then it turned into Jack and John got called to California because they loved the first documentary they made. So they're like, hey, you got anything else? And Jack just blurts it out. So because I was already part of the main topic, they were kind enough and generous enough to let me, come in as associate producer and, kind of learn that role. And Lori Wagner was the producer, who did probably 85% of the work. I mean, when it comes to production and lining everybody up and scheduling and, what producers do. But for some reason, it all just came together. Like it started out a little different than what it ended up being. And it ended up being the human story and what's really going on with these people. And, it's just, we'll just take it from there.
Yeah. Again, if you're a viewer of some duration and you've heard some of our other guests talking about this, well and good. If this is a new aspect to this subject for you, relatively so, and something that you're equivocal about, it's like, well, maybe they're not lying, but some weird psychological condition combined with some weird physical condition, because I just can't wrap my head around that this is really happening. As put on your seatbelt, and I'm going to click the button that brings us into the trailer for Extraordinary, The Seedling from 2019, and then we'll get back to discussing it. And I want to thank everybody, as always, in our chat room, which, Chase, you can check at any point if you want, just looking at that top icon on the right, comments, all the folks that are listening. Please feel free to give us your feedback. I, for one, am going to make a point of seeing this film finally, which I haven't done, and I encourage you to as well. So, without further ado.
The more that we actually learn about the world we're in, the greater the mysteries.
One in 50 American adults had experiences that could point to abduction.
It's extremely brave for someone to make their story public in this arena.
We'd look away and the ship would light up, and the next thing is just, boom, it's gone.
Men and women have been taken for purposes of reproduction and hybridization.
I was abducted. I wake up and there's such a bright light.
They would tell me to look in their eyes.
They're controlling your thoughts.
inserting this gigantic tube inside of my body. It's painful. I'm now looking who this man is. He is inside of me. It's a screen image of the reptilian. They began the insemination process.
A new embryo is created, and that little hybridized embryo already formed is implanted in the womb, and she will gestate.
They always want the children in fetuses.
I would go in for my appointment and there would just be no baby.
With a very long needle through the belly button, we go into the uterus and they would find the fetus.
It holds on to the fetus and pulls out.
And then they bring this little girl in the room.
And he said that she's yours.
This beautiful eyes, this face, and I see myself in the child.
She was emanating her feelings. I was shocked.
It was nobody's right to impregnate me and use me as a laboratory rat.
I went from 210 pounds to 115 pounds.
These beings that are doing the abducting don't have the same morality as we do.
They don't think what they're doing is wrong.
Hearing other people's accounts will make you go, okay, I'm not crazy. I'm not alone.
Who are we serving? We need to ask those questions.
Look, human beings taken animals in the wild and bred them. Can we be bred into something different? The answer is absolutely, of course we can.
Educate yourself, be open-minded.
Don't be dismissive.
People have been taken.
You can't ignore this anymore.
Make up your own mind. Don't let anyone ever tell you how to think.
Sorry guys, not all ETs are good.
Sorry, guys, not all these beings are good, within a word. One longs to have them be good. Good and bad, not the right question to ask. Right or wrong, judgmental. They're doing what they're doing for their own reasons. They are busy at it. It is a program. What is your interpretation of what is going on, Chase, here from your work in general and from your close involvement on this remarkable documentary?
Well, I started out completely nuts and bolts, and I started hearing about the abduction experiences, and I just didn't want to deal with it. It's kind of like, it's not that I didn't believe them. It's just like, that's too woo-woo for me. And then you can't ignore that. I mean, it can't all be, science doesn't care what you believe, but witnesses have something to say. And that piece of metal isn't telling me what they want. That piece of metal is not going to tell me what happened on that ship. So I really, really started focusing in on, what the credible experiencers were saying, and what their story and their background, and for what they say in the public, there's another 4 layers that when you're one-on-one with them and you're looking them in the eye and they can feel that you have that empathy, they'll take you to all 4 layers and you learn so much more. And to see the hurt in some of these people, you can't fake that kind of anguish in the eyes. It's just, you just can't. So I just thought this was very important documentary. I do want to say, I hope everybody sees it and check Amazon Prime often, because they have it free a lot. So please check it as many times as you want. And but it's just such a good example of that missing fetus and these women and the things that they have gone through and the experiences they have. Like Geraldine. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine? Like,
how many,
the things that they've gone through, the pain,
the numbers themselves are mind-boggling. I mean, as often as a woman can get pregnant, in some cases, this phenomena keeps happening. And all the more reason why a decent, open-minded, but understandably anxious person trying to wrap their head around this will look at somebody like Geraldine, a particularly attractive woman, very articulate, smart, who has had this happen to her again and again, and use her as an example of, well, there you go. It can't be. this woman is obviously very troubled, and we will put forward every intellectual defense we can. Wilhelm Reich had a wonderful phrase that I keep coming back to since I was a teenager. In so many situations, it simply went, evasion of the obvious. It can't be. Therefore, it must be something else. Therefore, you're wrong. And therefore, I'm safe. But no, it keeps falling apart. And again, back in the 80s, when I was working as Bud's assistant, I remember I had to smile when you said it was, I was nuts and bolts. It was too woo-woo for me. That was me working as his assistant, even in the area of abduction. But then what came up was, are we seeing another phenomena here that we're calling hybrids, that are part us and part them? And I remember working several days a week with Bud at a certain point in this coming up going, I'm turning that switch off for the next year or so. I'll come back to this when I'm ready to turn the switch back on. I swear to God, it was a year or two that I simply, I did the casework, but I didn't let it touch me or affect me because it was just too effing weird and too disturbing. Because if it was true, the understanding was some of these other intelligences, these part them, part us beings, they look enough like them that they're not going to be walking down a street. They are somewhere hidden away because people would freak out if they saw them. Other ones, you're strange looking, but okay. Other ones, you're, slightly something about you, but you made me think, my God, that means it's not out of the question that it sounds so hokey. It sounds so cartoony and science fiction-y and believer-oriented. They are among us. Well, guess what? They are among us. And what I started to dwell on, being an urbanite, was thinking of an apartment complex. And I'm studying this stuff. I'm reading it. I watch a documentary. I'm starting to think about this stuff, and it's obsessing me, and I'm concerned about it. The guy who lives across the way in the hall doesn't talk much, kind of wispy hair, sort of balding, very light eyes. And I'm starting to tell myself things and, keeps to himself. Maybe he's one of them. Sooner or later, somebody's going to shoot somebody else because they're terrified that that might be. It's an extreme possibility, but there's one gun for every American, and folks like to use them, don't they? And irrational fear around something that really is so loopy sounding on the surface, but is as real as you and I sitting here right now talking. This is the perfect thing that we call paradigm shifting. It's not UFOs are real and some of them represent hard metal machines from other places under advanced technology coming and going with impunity. Yeah, got it. This is that taken to, several light years beyond squared by 10. And over the years, I don't know about you, but part of just this study and moments like that of realizing so many people, we're all at different levels, kind of either dealing with this or not dealing with this, but you become more compassionate. You become more patient. You become more understanding of people's outrage at other people claiming to have had experiences that are so well documented and that are so accepted among other people. We're all kind of moving at different rates, but what an extraordinary moment in time to be alive. Again, the substance of this documentary seems to be absolutely unflinching. We're not going off on any comparatively comfortable what ifs or back into the wonderful world of UFO phenomena themselves. We're sticking with the hard stuff on this. And I just think this is a public service.
Oh, thank you. It's funny because when Bud came out, Jacobs came out with They Walk Among Us, and how much criticism he had. And now you have someone like Lou Elizondo saying, guess what, guys? They may be right under our noses, just like Bigelow was quoted saying, no, they're right under your nose. You don't have to go anywhere to find them. So now it's all starting to roll out. And I just love that these women came forward, and I love Melinda Leslie. She just cracks me up. I just love her so much. We're good
She has a great
friends,
sense of humor. I adore her too.
But oh my gosh, she's just wonderful. But to really hear her story, I mean, my heart ripped out. I mean, I started crying. I was just like tears coming out of my eyes, just like, especially when you hear the rest of it. But then there's another witness or experiencer in there, and she lives an alternative lifestyle. She's a lesbian, never been with a man in her life. How did she get pregnant? These are some of the questions. Provably pregnant. And of course, these are some of the questions that we have. And these are credible people with credible backgrounds. And, it's just, I'm just so happy we got to do this. I'm very proud of it. I think John, Jack, and Lori did such an amazing job with this. The people that are in it are extraordinary. And that's what the whole thing's about. So the guys just came out with another one as well. It's Extraordinary, the Phenomena or something, but it really weighs out the religious and science. And it's a brilliant, brilliant documentary. I had nothing really to do with it other than, it has like L.A. Marzulli and Timothy Alberino and some of the Gen 6 guys. But, it's just, I'm just really proud of it. So I really hope that everybody gets a chance to see it. And, I'm not pushing it for the money because it's free a lot. Look for it. It's free a lot.
Yeah. This begs another question, and it's one of the big ones that I still, in my own way, continue to come at. One of the givens for me at this point is that we're not only not alone in the universe, it's as ludicrous to think that there's one other intelligence out there on the tens of millions of Earth-sized planets that are almost exactly, or give or take a couple 100,000 miles, the same distance from a star about the size of the sun. Even the most conservative, recalcitrant, UFO-hating astronomers will begrudgingly admit, we've got a couple of 100 million shots at this out there that we know of. But I think that we're probably dealing with a myriad of other intelligences. Some of them may be not that different than us in terms of being, bipedal and having a torso and 4 appendages and a head. Other ones that, that wonderful science fiction film a couple of years ago with Amy, I'm blanking, where the beings were, very jello-y and very large and very different than we are. But are there ones who are really looking to take us down? Maybe they have a relationship with this planet that predates us, that they have a very special feeling for. We are the infestation. We are the cancer on the host. And now more than ever, just,
right, absolutely.
It's very scary. It's a combination of climate change. And I think nobody taking any responsibility for what, when I was a kid growing up, was called family planning, which now if you mention it, people will, it sounds kind of Nazi. How many people, you're telling me how many kids I should have? Please don't do that. That's my only freedom. Everything else is, caught up in laws and regulations. I can have as many damn kids as I want. So what if they're brought up, each new one, in more and more poverty, and I'm more desperate as a result, but I'm going to outbreed you and we're going to win. Not the way to look at it. But that is it us looking at them or the different thems and making judgments, let's say, around the aspects that are discussed in this documentary, the tough, real specifics, where what they're doing is wrong and bad, or what they're doing is wrong and bad by people who are interpreting it that way, or that the whole idea of a hybrid is because maybe they're a little more knowledgeable about how things are evolving and in terms of the science of climate change and how things are going to go, that they are trying to create a being that is part us, part them, in the best senses to be more resilient as we move into a more and more unhospitable host planet. I don't have a definite opinion on it. I just keep looking at it from different angles as well as I can and trying to be open to the possibilities. Where do you stand on that way of thinking right now, Chase?
I agree in a lot of what you just said, but I come back to, like, Whitley Strieber will talk now about, he's glad it happened. He's special. He had a role in this. And yet his first book, he called them demons. He was so terrified, and what they did to him was so horrific. And, so sometimes, well, I guess I put it this way. I don't believe they're going to save us. I don't believe it's all love and light. It can't be. That discounts the other stories. But we can't discount maybe them coming here on good faith. However, they didn't save us from World War II. They didn't save us from nuclear bombs dropping them on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They didn't save us from COVID. They haven't saved us from the pollution and what we're doing to the earth and the species that are gone now. They're just gone. We've gotten rid of them. They haven't saved us for anything. Sorry. But, like what they give humanity, could they help us cure cancer? They just don't. So yeah. I think there's more of just, we're not responsible for you guys. You're on your own. You made your bed. You're going to lay in it, but if we feel like we need to come back, or we need to stay here for a reason, I believe that reason would be to save a planet that we should, that we don't deserve. We just don't deserve it. Look at what's going on in the Middle East or in Afghanistan, where, they're still beheading people with machetes, and how we treat each other, and what's going on in not Kosovo, what's going on in Ukraine right now. It's like, it's horrific. So it's like, you see all these horrible things that have happened in the history of us as humans. Yeah. As far back as you want to go, we're just not nice people. And they haven't saved us yet. So I take that into account.
Yeah. Thank you to David Altman for reminding me that the film is The Arrival with Amy Adams, which is kick-ass. That is one terrific.
Hey, David. Hi, Dave.
Here we are. Exactly.
I love that guy. He's so awesome.
We have some great regular viewers and listeners on this show, I must say. I don't have much chance to interact with them, but I know you're there, and I appreciate your remembering things that I don't. Another thing that...
They keep us honest. I love it.
Yeah, exactly. Resonates for me is I remember when I first got into the work, and, there were, as there always are when you get into something, the most senior people. Back then, people like Len Stringfield, even, well, Len was about the most senior, but, then I met Koman von Kloetzke, my first mentor, a former staff officer of the Hungarian Royal Army during World War II, Pete Mazzola, a brilliant police officer, Bud Hopkins, all helped me to understand what the best way to work, helped me with my methodology. They're all gone now. It's wonderful to wax ethereal and, that platitude of, well, now they know everything that's going on. Well, maybe yes, maybe no. I don't know.
I hope they've learned all the secrets, the mystery, all the mystery and all the secrets that they want. I hope that's part of the deal.
How can we not, want that? And it's a lovely idea. Again, time will tell. We will all have our moment where we go through the door and all of a sudden everything gets my father's attitude about the afterlife was everything goes black forever and the worms eat you. End of story. He's very romantic and obviously a man of faith. For me, it's
Right.
like, well, who knows what's going to happen? I think the worst thing would be, as you're about to, pull the cord and jump through, the voice says, by the way, all that stuff you believed about not doing all that stuff that was so much fun because if you could go to hell and be guilty about it. No, you should have been doing that. You could have been doing that. Bye. No, wait. So reincarnation, please. Okay. Give me another shot at that.
Yeah. I like the saying, like the way I think about it, because, we get older, I've been 40, I've been 50, I've been 60, 40's better. But at the same time, it's as you get older and we are losing some of our friends, we're losing some of our colleagues, and you have to think, and I just think of it like one day we are going to die, but all the other days we're not. And as long as we have today, like just be a good one, like let it be a good one. Just be you and be your best you and try to be, a light to someone else.
Yeah. When I got involved, maybe you too, my key obsession was, who are they? Where do they come from? Where do they, how do they make their ships? What's their technology? What are their beliefs? Do they have God? Are they agnostic? Or, are they, inside the moon? Or all that stuff, where now it's more, everything is what it is. I can make my guesses. I can believe what I want, but it's belief backed by faith that my belief may be accurate, which makes it one step away from a religion, as opposed to, established law, so to say, physical law of the universe. What concerns me now most, and concerns the wrong word, what interests me most on a day-to-day level is the potential that taking this subject seriously by a critical mass of people on Earth has the possibility of making us all look at each other and say, I'm supposed to hate you because, beliefs that you have inspired people who have killed my people, or there's something about your language I don't like, or you live in an area I can't even imagine living, or your traditions are different, or the way that you dress, as opposed to, we have so much more in common with the most foreigner than we do with these other intelligences on a certain physiological level anyway, that there is a chance it can bring humanity together with a common understanding that we're all people. And since time immemorial, we've been encouraged to be scared shitless of each other, mobilize around each other, build spheres of influence, be powerful, defeat you, so that I can be the number one dog until my culture gets defeated. And then there's that idea that I'm seeing more and more in the world of UFO involved people, of whatever this is, like Whitley's evolution. I met Whitley literally as he finished the manuscript for communion. Working closely with Bud, he asked me to review the manuscript, which was very cool. But I had to go to his home and read it from start to finish in one day. I couldn't take it with me. So I had 3 meals there. I read it, started at like 9 a.m, finished 8 at night, gave him my impressions of it, and that's how we met. Obviously, these shocking experiences were negative, but the more experiences he had, the more it seems, and certainly from what he puts forward, he grew to feel that he misinterpreted their behavior or made judgments about it that wasn't accurate. He kept being returned. Ultimately, he took the point of view that they care. And I'm seeing now, I had started to say before that 40 years ago, 35 years ago, if there were formal stats on people's reaction to being taken, or a particularly confrontational direct experience, that about 2/3 of folks reported anxiety, fear, terror, uncomfort, negative stuff. Now, more and more, the stats are reflecting a reverse of that general idea that maybe part of it is that there's more of a community. It has a history. It's embedded itself in popular culture.
Mm-hmm.
But about 2/3 of people that come forward now and say go to free to share their stories with the organization there and have them logged in, report positive, even beatific, even wonderful, even loving experiences. Again, is this a reflection of their change in some way, or our change, or that we're dealing with beings that really don't care about us and don't wish us well, and other ones who really do? Or, how much of this is us superimposing our longings, our dreams, our wishes, our fears on this aspect of the unknown, because there's still always mystery and always deception threading its way through it. I'm, again, talking about when I kind of finding myself out on a tether here in terms of what it's all about, and very clear that I don't know still. I still don't know for, a verifiable fact, which brings me to the idea of when you find out, you just wake up and you find out you died last night, and you get used to that idea. And you say, so I died with all these mysteries. How do I feel about not knowing all that stuff that I worked so hard for years to find out? And I think to myself right now here, not having died, that's just fine with me. How boring life would be without mysteries. And the search bringing us into living interesting lives, contributing lives, I hope, ones where we interact with often wonderful people we would have never met in another way, and feel that we're part of something bigger than ourselves in a positive kind of way. Apples and oranges, but I remember my dad reflecting late in life that for him, the most exciting time in his life was when he was in the Army Air Corps in World War II. He knew that they were good in, all the routine senses, and that the fascists were bad, and that we were fighting for something important, and you were part of something bigger than yourself in a good way. I'd like to think there's something about that in our field, where there are a lot of people that have taken the work and kind of trashed it in a way, or sensationalized it, or reduced it to infotainment, where, the last minute is yours. We have once again zoomed through and had a missing time experience, this time with one of the most extraordinary women I know and love. Chase, closing remarks?
Yeah, just that this has been a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to be with you again. Even though it's virtual, it doesn't matter. I'll take it. I adore you. You know it. I can't wait to speak with you again. And I love that you have a show. You should be a voice out here. You have been for a long time, but this new avenue for you just brings you to the whole world. So I'm very, very happy for you. I love the name, by the way. Oh my gosh, I just loved it. And just really want to wish you the biggest success possible. You deserve it. And just keep doing what you do. It's just amazing. And I can't say enough. I just want to keep saying how much I love you. So I'm not, I love you, love you, love you, love you, love you, love you.
Will you come back and join us again at different times, part of panel or whatever?
Absolutely. If you need it and I've got it, or I can do it, it's yours.
Great. Visit Chase Kloetzke's website at chasekloetzke.com, ChaseKloetzke.com. This is Peter Robbins on Meanwhile Here on Earth. Stay well, fight for what you believe in, be good to each other, and we'll see you next week.